Wow, you guys really seem to like my bad balance video about Vega, and I got a lot of requests to do some more. I want to take a look at Third Strike Sean, who's a rather unique case because the developers have said in an interview that they made him bad on purpose for lore reasons without realizing the staying power Third Strike would end up having on the market. I knew a ton about vanilla Vega already, but I actually didn't know that much about Sean prior to researching for this video, since he's almost completely unplayed. As such, I might miss some things, but I should be able to cover the important stuff. One of Sean's biggest weaknesses is redundancy. Taking a look at his normals, they're generally not horrible, but there are 3 other characters on the 19 character roster who have almost the same set of normals as him. Invariably, the question becomes, what can Sean do that the other 3 Shotos, who are all higher top tiers mind you, can't do? The answer is unsurprisingly almost nothing. Though his normals are often visually identical to the other Shotos, they're subtly worse. Farstrong has the same startup and animation as Ryu, but it's 0 on block instead of +4. Close Strong is only +1 on hit instead of +2 like Ryu and Ken. Low Strong is actually fully identical to Ryu and Ken's by startup, hit stun, block stun, and recovery. Ryu's Crouch Fierce is a quick 5-frame startup, but -8 on block. Ken's is 7-frame startup, but recovers faster and is only -6 on block. Sean's is the worst of both worlds, 7-frame startup, but -9 on block. You'll quickly see this is a theme with Sean. Ken's low forward starts up a frame faster than Ryu's, but Ryu's recovers a frame faster. Sean's low forward has the same startup as Ryu's, but the same recovery as Ken's. Once again taking the worst properties of each. Sean's low roundhouse is actually outright worse than both Ryu and Ken. At 9-frame startup compared to their 7-frame and 6-frame sweeps, and -16 on block compared to their -13 and 14. These frame data differences might not sound like tier shifters, and generally they're not, but remember, these normals are Sean's best feature, and yet they're not as good as the other Shotos. So what about Sean's unique normals? They're pretty hit or miss. Notably, they're all pretty combo unfriendly. Sean's far medium kick is a lot uglier than Ryu's, but it has the same startup, active time, and recovery, as well as a pretty similar range. The hitbox feels a lot worse though. Unlike Ryu and Akuma, Sean has no close medium kick. Close roundhouse is actually genuinely good. It's fast with high damage, and it even special cancels. The long active frames and big cancel window mean you can even use it to rock and firm supers. The downside is that the pushback is pretty high, which means Sean doesn't actually have much he can cancel it into besides his supers. I'll talk about this more shortly since it actually gets into the meat of why Sean is an awful character. Far roundhouse has pretty good speed and an interesting attacking angle. It makes a decent anti-air. Of course, it's one parry with long recovery. Crouch Fierce and Uppercut are also decent anti-airs, but at least you can mix those 2 up if you get parried by potentially cancelling them to super. Towards roundhouse is a hop kick. The range is good, and the damage and stun are alright too. Unfortunately, it's -5 on block, and even though it has 5 active frames, it's really hard to space to be safer since it basically stops moving by the time it's hitting. Towards Fierce is Sean's overhead. Technically speaking, it has very impressive range. Sean has no combo out of it to my knowledge, even if it's a meaty. But it's held back by its abysmal startup. It takes 21 frames to hit, compared to Ryu and Akuma towards strong, which takes 14, or Ken back medium kick, which takes 18. Obviously, this makes it more reactable, which means more people are going to block it. More importantly, it's actually so slow that you can even parry it on reaction, and it's a pretty easy parry. Sean can target combo into it from close fierce, but it's not a combo on hit, let alone a true block string. Once again, this is very reactable, and a savvy opponent is just going to smash you for attempting it. Sean's other target combo is strong roundhouse. In second impact, this linked into SA3, but in this game that only works on standing Makoto and crouching Ibuki. Without this link, this target combo isn't rewarding at all. Though sadly, it's still Sean's most reliable ender. I don't know when to talk about this, so I'll just mention it now. Sean's jump is identical to the other Shotos, but his super jump is unusually high without going very far. This is very useless since it makes him easier to anti-air without giving him better mobility. Sean also has lower health than Ryu and Ken, though obviously more than Akuma. His health is tied with Chun-Li. Now for why you're all here, let's talk about Sean's horrible special moves. Half circle forward punch is a command dash. If you hold the punch, it ends in a low hit grab tackle, where Sean pins and punches the opponent. The damage and stun are actually pretty good, particularly for the EX version. The problem is there's basically no way to combo into it. Even Sean's strongest cancels against crouching opponent just lack the hit stun to combo into even the light tackle. The reactable startup makes the fact that it's a low useless. Combine that with the fact that it's minus 14 on block, and you get a very bad special move. Also, Sean recovers crouching, and you take more damage when crouching in third strike. Sean can fake the tackle if he doesn't hold the punch. This seems strong since you can cancel into tackle and then grab opponents waiting to block or parry the tackle's hit. But this cancel is just way too minus. It's really only a mix-up of the initial normal hits, and if it's blocked, the opponent's reversal normal or grab can interrupt your ender or your reset. For example, you can react to any tackle cancel with an OS low parry throw. This punishes real tackles, techs throw resets, or throws Sean outright, and interrupts any other thing Sean does. Quarter circle forward kick is a wheel kick. It's an overhead, and the version dictates range. The damage and stun are quite high. Once again, you can't combo into it at all. What's worse, unlike Elena's Mallet Smash, it's always 25 frame startup, even the light version. Which means it's reactable, and it's only a single high parry, with a 100% consistent timing. So anytime the opponent sees this, they can tap forward to punish you, and there's no way to mix it up. This means this move is basically impossible to use in any context against a good opponent. The EX version is 2 hits, but it's still slow and flashes yellow, so you can react to the fact that it's EX and just parry again. The wheel kick is decent as an air-to-air, but it's too slow to use on reaction to a jump. Which means you have to do it predictively, anticipating jumps, so the opponent can either parry it or whiff punish it on reaction if they don't jump. Quarter circle back punch is Sean's role. It's not invincible and has no hitbox, but it is low profile. It's basically useless. Anytime you use it, your opponent can just hit you out of it. It is unthrowable, but even if you do the light version on the same frame as the opponent's throw, the opponent actually recovers first. Tornado is Sean's Tatsu equivalent. It's visually a little reminiscent of Dan's Dan kicks, but it might surprise you to learn that it's actually significantly worse on almost every metric. For one, it doesn't knock down. The startup is pretty fast. It's one of 2 special moves you can actually combo into. But, get this, it recovers point blank, and all meterless versions are punishable even on hit. Here's me holding up after the tornado. Which means this reversal throw is actually grabbing during the tornado's recovery. Do I even have to say how useless that makes it? On block, Light Tornado is -7 and Medium and Heavy are -6, so all 3 are punishable by many medium and heavy normals. And oh yeah, he's crouching for his recovery again, so he takes bonus damage. On hit, Light is -5 and Medium and Heavy are -4. This means all 3 meterless versions are still punishable by a throw, some light normals, and many reversal supers. Combine this with the extremely reactable animation, and the opponent can just start mashing throw or super as soon as they see it, regardless of whether it hits or is blocked. This makes meterless Tornado almost unusable. The EX version is much better. It's only -1 on hit and -3 on block, so it still ends your momentum, but it's generally harder and impossible for the opponent to punish. Emphasis on generally. It also combos from cancelled mediums, unlike medium or heavy tornado. This makes it his go-to after most parries in neutral or other mid-range punishes. This makes Sean extremely meter reliant. It doesn't knock down, it's minus on hit, and the damage isn't even that high, yet this is Sean's best combo ender most of the time, so that should be telling. The extra hilarious thing about Tornado is that the first hit forces stand. Sounds nice, but it actually hits most crouching characters properly. You reel for longer when you're hit crouching in Third Strike. Tornado on crouching opponents should be -2 on hit, but because the first hit forces stand, it's actually -5, the same as if it hit a standing opponent. It's literally a worse move because it forces stand, which I think is a step down even from DJ's force stand normal, which whiffed on crouchers. And what's even more hilarious is that certain hitboxes and starters can cause the force stand hit of Tornado to whiff on crouching opponents and for the combo to drop. Sean's final special is his uppercut. As you can probably guess, it's a decent anti-air and very bad on block. The horizontal range is even worse than the other Shotos. This means it falls out of all kinds of combos, which makes it an extremely inconsistent or bad combo ender. It would be a decent special if not for the bad range, but in practice it's almost unusable. Sean really can't confirm it at all. So it's really only good if you already have a punish opportunity and the opponent is point blank. For what it's worth, the EX version does have real hit invincibility. Frustratingly, unlike the other Shotos, Sean can be thrown out of the meterless versions. Even more frustratingly, this is Sean's only special move that super cancels. Considering it's unavailable in many combos, this means Sean often has to go straight from normal to super. Those are the special moves that Sean has, but let's mention what special moves he doesn't have. For one, he has no regular Hadouken, so he can't control the neutral with EX Hadouken like Ryu and Ken. Nor can he use Hadouken and cancels to give him extra super confirm time. His Tornado also can't be used mid-air like the Shoto Tatsus, so no jump in Tatsu pressure like Ken or Akuma. Sean's super arts are surprisingly good, with all three being quite strong and very fast. Hado Burst is the most used, because it stocks the most total meter and has the lowest cost. Sean really appreciates having a lot of EX in the back pocket, as well as the burst damage a super provides, so he wants to always have a super available. SA1 is the best for that. On block, the pushback is high, but it's so minus that most characters can just punish it anyway. Also, it's only a single parry, so it's not fantastic for chipping or anti-airs most of the time. Shoryuken is noticeably stronger than Hado Burst, but the range is much worse, so you can't pick up certain mid-screen punishes with it. And it doesn't work in certain combos that confirm the other two supers. In the corner you can juggle out of it, potentially into another one, so the burst damage is huge. Hyper Tornado has enormous range and great damage. This makes it surprisingly good at picking up punishes. The long single bar means it's usually not available, and you don't get to use much EX. Since Sean is normally extremely reliant on EX Tornado as a cancel route, this means SA3 Sean basically has no special moves at all if he wants a chance at a super. This is what an SA3 Sean punish looks like. Also, unlike his other two supers, SA3 won't combo properly from an uppercut. All three supers grant Sean a low confirm, though all three other Shotos share this confirm. He also needs his supers to have a good mid-screen combo ender. But all three supers offer no mix-up and very little utility. Fundamentally, all three are just combo enders, with the variation mostly being cheap and weak versus expensive and strong. None of them really help Sean find hits, so generally you only see them after a parry. This is the problem with Sean in general. He can really only do work exploiting the universal mechanics of the game. He can still play because he has parry, anti-airs, and throw mix-ups, but he doesn't have reused engine mix-ups or high post parry damage with EX Donkey. He doesn't have Ken's powerful overhead low meaty presence. Or Ken's insane meterless burst damage with target combo or double DP. He doesn't have Akuma's high damage meterless combos. Or his Air Fireball, Demon Flip, or Tatsu to dominate neutral. And the things he does have, which the other Shotos don't, aren't really worth having. That's all for this video. Just as a proof of concept, I'll show off a few common punish scenarios to show how much Sean suffers compared to the other Shotos.